Alrighty, this lesson video will be for 9.2. But before we get started, I would love to go back to 9.1 and go over a few of the word problems so you have an example to go with for the homework. So in 9.1, let's look at number 39. I think this is where we left off in the last video. And it says, Jack wants to build a tree house. Again, here's my interpretation of a tree house. This is said tree house. All right. It says his parents worry that he is building it too high. If Jack's dad is looking at the tree house, so here's Jack's dad is looking at the tree house location from a 70-degree angle. So this would be a 70-degree angle from right here. And then says, then he moves back 10 feet to right here. So he's now 10 feet. And from this angle, it is now 50 degrees. How high is the tree in location? All right, so to kind of figure this out, let me see if I can do a better line here. Here is our other triangle. So again, this would be 50 right here. And what we need to do is to kind of determine what is this side right here, because then I can use the height formula by doing the side times the angle next to that side, and it would give me the height of this tree. So I need to figure out what this side is. But before I can figure this side, I got to figure out these angles. Well, since this right here, this angle and this angle are called supplementary angles, they are equal to 180. So if this is 70, that means that this right here would be 110. And if this is 50 and this is 110, this is 20, right? So that'll give me 180 degrees. Since I now have this angle and I know this side, I can use the law of sines to figure out what this side is. So this will be sine 20 over 10 equals sine 50, since that's the angle I want, equals, we'll call it B, I guess. It doesn't really matter, A, B, C, whatever. Unknown X, however we want to call it. And then we just can solve it this way. So we'll cross multiply. So this will be B sine 20 equals 10 sine 50. Divide by sine 20. So then I get B equals, again, I'm going to type this into the calculator. Hopefully at this point, again, y'all know how to do that. Not, I don't mind showing you some more examples of that. Just let me know. So that's going to be 10 times sine 50 over sine 20. When I do that, I get 22.3976. So that gives me the B right here. So now I can use the height formula, which will give me this guy right here, which is the height. And all I got to do is do this side times this angle. So now it's going to be 22.3976 times sine of 70 degrees. So in the calculator, I'm going to do times sine 70 degrees, and I get a total height of 21.0469. I believe in your homework they round to just the whole number, so this will be 21 feet. So the tree house, with just that information alone, is 21 feet high. All right. The next one I want to look at is number 41. Number 41 states, as Brandy appears to land her plane on the runway. So here's my best interpretation of a plane. Something like this. She is descending at a 10-degree angle from the horizontal. So that means she is descending. This is the horizontal. She's descending from the horizontal 10 degrees. Behind her is a marker. Right? Here's a marker on the ground that is 500 feet from the runway. So this is 500 feet in total. And at the marker, the angle between the ground and Brandy's plane, so right here, this area right here, is 50 degrees. What is the actual distance between Brandy's plane and the runway? And we're not looking for the height distance, but how far from here to here am I? So once you have it a pretty good idea of how you're doing this, this is again, you just need to figure out what this angle is going to be. So that's 50, 60. And then that means that this right here would be 120 degrees. So all we got to do is we're just trying to figure out what this guy right here is. And you can call it A, B, or C. I think I'm just going to stick with the B. I think it works great. So I'll do sine of 120 over 500 equals sine of 50 over whatever B is. And you can call it whatever. And again, we'll just simply cross multiply. So again, this will be B sine 120 equals 500 sine 50. Divide that by sine 120. And that will give me control divide 500 times sine of 50 over trig sine 120. And we get that she is about 442.276 feet from the runway. And again, I think on on the homework, it rounded to the 10th place. So that'd be 442.3 feet. All right, one more question, and then 9.1 will be good to go for y'all. So let's look at number 53. Number 53 says an A-frame house. So an A-frame literally looks like an A. House overlooking the Atlantic Ocean has windows entirely covering one end. If the roof intersects at a 54-degree angle, so this guy would be 54 degrees, intersects right here, and the roof is 21 feet long from peak to ground. So this roof would be 21 feet, and that means that this one's also 21 feet. It says how much area of the window do the windows cover? So remember, area is just equal to 1/2 times the two sides, so 21 times 21, times the angle of 54. And that's it. So we'll just type that into the calculator. So again, that would be, I'd like to do 0.5. There we go, 0.5 times 21 times 21 times sine of 54. And we get approximately, there it goes, 178.388. And this is area. So this would be feet squared. So this would be I guess I just added there, feet squared. And on the homework, I saw them go to 4 decimal places, but the calculator did not give me 4, so I'm going to go with that and be good with it. And that right there will pretty much be all of 9.1. All right, I now want to switch gears to 9.2. Lesson 9.2. Is called the Law of Cosines. Law of cosines is a longer formula, but for a very specific type of equations. These are for, so we use law of sine when the information is in the form side angle side and side side side. So if you're given side angle side or three sides, then you can use law of cosine. All right, so the law of cosine is three formulas, but I'll show you the pattern just like we did in law of sine. We identified patterns rather than the letters, but I'll give you all three of the different situations. So a squared is going to equal b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times cosine of a. B squared is equal to c squared plus a squared minus 2ac. That's going to throw me off. Technically, this should be AC, alphabetical order reasons. And then this will be cosine A. C squared then will equal B squared plus C squared. Nope. A squared plus B squared minus 2AB times cosine of B and then C. So what you'll see is if I want to know what side A is, then it's going to be the other two sides squared, summed up, minus 2 times the product of those other two sides times the cosine of the angle associated with the side I want. And that works out in every single one of these situations. So if you remember the process, you won't have to worry about stressing about memorizing each one of these formulas. The other thing that we'll be discussing in 9.2 is a different way of finding the area of a triangle. And this is using what they call Heron's formula. Again, this will be for the area of a triangle. All right, and this specifically needs to be used only when given three sides, because the very first thing you need to do is determine your S, which will be 1/2 the sum of all the sides added together. Once you determined your side, you can then use the area formula, which is the square root of the S times the S minus A times the S minus B times the S minus C. And then that will give you the area. So this again only works if you have three known sides. So you don't have all three sides. We might have to do a little work to find all the missing sides. All right, and that's pretty much all of what's in 9.2. So let's go into a couple of examples. I think I have about, let's see, not many. There wasn't, this homework is very light. I think there's about 5 problems in total. Is that about right? Yep. There we go. So let's first look at number 5. It says solve for the remaining angles and sides of the triangle. What's also real nice about using law of sine or law of cosine, as long as it's side angle side or side side side, you don't have to stress about how many triangles there are. You can just be able to do the work. So you are given that C is equal to 30 degrees, A is equal to 8, B is equal to 6. So again, I do this for labeling purpose only. This is not to scale. So my C is 30, my A is 8, and my B is 6. So I have a side angle side case. So then I would use law of cosine. So law of cosine, the best way to approach this problem is actually to go find a missing angle, and then you can identify the other angle. And then personally, I then switch back to law of sine to find out the last remaining side. But you can also use law of cosine, and I'll progress through both of those as well. So let's start off by trying to identify angle A. Doesn't matter which one you go for. I'm just going with A. So that means I'm going to use the A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2AC times cosine of A. So what that looks like is I'm going to have 8 squared, so the side of the angle I'm looking for, equals the other, ooh, I don't have that side. See if I want A, B, C, D. Okay. So 8 squared would equal, mm, I'm going to have to find C, right? And the reason is because I don't have enough information for the rest. So this now becomes C squared equals my two other sides. So A squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 8 times 6 times cosine of the known angle C, which is 30. I had to go this direction because the other direction I would end up with two unknowns, and then that doesn't help me at all. Right? So with this, I can then kind of work this out. So I will switch this to the calculator. What's my screen? Now you'll notice, let me just go back real quick, that this is what C squared is equal to. I'm going to need to know what C is so I can actually take the square root of this entire result. You don't have to worry about plus or minus because we don't have negative measurements. So we just need to do the square root of all of that all at once. All right, now let me go back and show you how you can do that. All right, so then we just simply do control x squared to make it, oh, I didn't catch my first control. So control x squared, this will make the square root, and then I can just type in the information. It was 8 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 8 times 6 times cosine of 30 degrees. And there you go. You now have C. All right, so I'll come over here and I'll write little c is equal to 4.1. How far do they want to go on the homework? They went to 4 decimal places. So 4.1063. Now that I have my known c, you can do this in multiple ways. You can now use law of cosine to find the two missing angles. Or what I like to do at this point is I will do law of sine. So I'll now do sine of 30 over 4.1063 equals any of the other angles. So sine A over 8. And then we just cross multiply. So this will give me 8 sine 30 equals 4.1063 times sine A. Divide that. Divide that by 4.1063. So I get 8 sine 30 over 4.1063 equals sine A. In order to get rid of this sine, I need to take the sine inverse of this result. So angle A will be whatever that gives me. So that's going to be trig sine inverse, control divide. So that'd be 8 times trig sine 30 divided by 4.1063. And I get 76.9347. And again, on the homework, they went to 4 decimal places. So angle A, again, is 76.9347. And now to find angle B, I just need to add this to my other known angle. So in my calculator, I will do plus 30 and then take 180 minus that answer. And so therefore for angle B, I get 73.0653. Right? So we use law of cosine at the beginning, and then you can default back to law of sine. All right, so another one. Let's look at number 9. It asks you to solve for the angles of the given triangle, but this time I'm only given sides. So side A equals 3, side B equals 4, and side C equals 2. So again, this is just for labeling purposes. This is 3, this is 4, this is 2. So in this case, when you're given nothing but sides, you just need to find one angle. Doesn't matter which one you decide. I'm going to go ahead and just default to A, but it doesn't matter. So this is then going to be A squared. So that's 3 squared equals B squared. So that's going to be 4 squared plus C squared, which is 2 squared minus 2BC. That's going to be 4, 2 times cosine of angle A, but that's the part I don't know. So to type this into the calculator, I'm not going to work it out. I'm just going to show you. So to get A by itself, I need 3 squared. I need to subtract the 4 squared. I need to subtract the 2 squared. And then I would divide by this negative 2 times 4 times 2. And then I'd be left with cosine of A. So then I would take that entire process and take the cosine inverse of it. And now I'll have angle A. So you can work them out individually or just type this entire thing into the calculator to get the answer without messing up. So again, I'll do trig, cosine inverse, control, divide. So this will again be 3 squared minus 4 squared minus 2 squared divided by negative 2 times 4 times 2. When I do that, I get for my angle A 46.5675 degrees. You then take that, and now we can use law of sine. So I'll now take sine of 46.5675 divided by 3. Go look for a different angle. I'm going to go with sine B over 4. Cross multiply. So I now get 4 sine of 46.5675 equals 3 sine B. Divide both sides by 3. And so then I get 4 sine of 46.5675 divided by 3 equals sine B. To get rid of this sine, I need to take the inverse sine of the other side. So that's what I'll do now. So I'll do trig, sine inverse, control, divide, 4 times sine 46.5675 divided by 3, and I now have my answer. So for angle B, I get 75.5226. All I gotta do is just add those two up. So I'm gonna take my two angles I found, the 46 plus the 75, and then I'll take 180 minus that answer, and I get approximately 57.9099. So hopefully that was pretty straightforward. Ooh, hold up. I did not get the same answer. Let's see. Where did the ratio? C has to be the smallest angle. Hmm. Let's backtrack a little bit into our section here. Hmm. Okay, let's see. So we got 4 times sine. You got 75. We need a more bulletproof way of doing that because they took that away from 180, added it to A. Okay. So, okay, so I remember this rule now, but I'm not seeing it in our book, which just frustrates me a little bit. I always remember those pitfalls. All right, so here we go. When dealing with situations like this, we got 75.5226. Before I moved on, what I should have done, and this is the process that you have to do as well. So let me just kind of jump to the calculator so you can kind of see the process a little bit easier. So when we got to this point right here, the yeah, this part right here, what you have to do with this highlighted number is you actually have to take 180 minus said number, then take that number and add it to what you got as your first angle. If this number is less than 180, which it is, then this number becomes the number that you actually have to use. Had I used that number, added it to the known first angle, and it gave me more than 180, then I'd go back to the original angle. So forgot that one little step there. So let's go back. And the only thing that we'll have to erase is just this last part here. I guess it's actually this whole thing here. So what happens is, instead of the 75, since I was able to take that from 180 and then add it to this, it would actually be 104.477 degrees. Then once you have that, then you can take these two numbers. Oh, actually, go back. You need this work. Hold on. I don't want to take all that work away. When in reality, you had to do the work. You had to do this to get to this point right here. But then you had to do 180 minus this, which gave you 104.477. You then had to add that to 46.5675, which we got 151.045. And since that was less than 180, this becomes my answer. So that's the only extra part. So everything we did correctly. We just had to do that one little step right here. So I got 104.477 degrees. And then now I can add these two numbers and subtract it from 180. So again, I'm just going to take that 104. I want to add it to that 46. I'll do 180 minus that result. And I get 28.9552. Now, this makes more sense since C should be the smallest angle. So that should be a good little check for us as we're doing the work. Does the angles make sense? If C is the smallest, is the angle the smallest? If B is the largest, is my B the largest angle? If it is, then appropriately the angles should be relatively straight, correct. Alrighty. So with all that, let's look at a area problem. So let's look at number 29. So it says find the area of the given information. You're given that B is equal to 12, C is equal to 18, and A is equal to 15. So again, to find the area, use area using Heron's formula. You'll have S equals 1/2 times the sum of all these numbers. So 15 plus 12 plus 18. And that right there would give us 0.5 parentheses 15 plus 12 plus 18, which gave us 15, 12, 18, gave us 22.5. So then the area becomes the square root of 22.5 times 22.5 minus 15 times 22.5 minus 12 times 22.5 minus 18. Whatever that is, will give me my official answer. So I'll just type that completely into the calculator. So square root 22.5, parentheses 22.5 minus 15, close parentheses, open parentheses, 22.5 minus 12, close parentheses, open parentheses, 22.5 minus 18. And then I get the area of 89.2941. And that's all you have to do. So area is pretty straightforward. This has two little formula steps you have to do. All right, the last part of this lecture I would like to do is go through some of those word problems. So I want to first look at number 38. Number 38 says a farmer puts a piece of fence across an inside corner of his barn. Oh, my bad. Sorry. I actually want to do number 33. Let's start back. So number 33. It says a log is seen floating down a stream. The log first spotted 10 feet away. So here is someone spotting. We see a log that is 10 feet away. 10 seconds later, the log is now 70 feet away. So here's the log here. Same log is now 70 feet away. Making an angle of 60 degrees between the two sightings. How far did this log travel? So I'm looking for this missing angle. So to calculate this missing angle, I need to do the law of cosines. So I will use the side angle side concept, and it doesn't matter what you call this side. If I call this angle A, I'm looking for A. So this becomes A squared will then equal 10 squared plus 70 squared minus 2 times 10 times 70 times the known angle, sorry, not sine, cosine of 60. And remember to type this completely into the calculator as is, I can just take the square root of that result. So that's what I'll do now. So control x squared gives me 10 squared plus 70 squared minus 2 times 10 times 70 times cosine of 60. When I do all that, I get 65.5744 feet as my distance. All right. And so now after that, I want to do 38. 38, it says a farmer puts a piece of fence across an inside corner of his barn. So if we're looking down at a barn, let's say the barn is relatively squared or rectangular, and I'm going to put a piece of fencing right there to make a pen for his chickens. The length of the sides of the pen are follows. So 8, 7, 5. What are the respective angles? So this is, again, law of cosine. It doesn't matter how you label the triangle. I just went with that, but it doesn't matter. So again, let's call this angle A. I'll start there first. So this is assuming that that angle is a right angle, but do not assume that. So what I'll do is I will say a squared, so that's going to be 8 squared equals 5 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 5 times 7 times cosine of this missing angle. And so if you recall, to work this all out, I just subtract each one of these numbers, divide this set. Don't forget that negative, very important. And then I take the entire cosine inverse of that answer. So let's do that. So we'll do trig, cosine inverse, control, divide. 8 squared minus 5 squared minus 7 squared. And then it'd be negative 2 times 5 times 7. And so I get A equals 81.7868 as my degree. All right, so there's my angle A. So to calculate the rest, you just can do law of sine. So I'll do sine of 81.7868 divided by 8 equals sine of, we'll call it B, and I'll say B is 7. So we'll say this guy's B, and then this guy's C. Cross multiply, so I get 7 sine 81.7868 equals 8 sine B, divide by 8. So 8 now goes over here. And then now I'm just going to take the sine inverse of this result to get rid of that sine. So now I'll come over here and I'll do trig, sine inverse, control, divide, 7 times trig sine of 81.7868 over 8. And that gives me 60 on the dot. So that means B equals 60. But remember what we have to check. We have to take 60, subtract it from 180. So here's your side work. So 180 minus 60 equals 120. I then have to take this number and add it to the other known angle. So 120 plus 81.7868 equals, that looks to be about 201.7868, which is greater than 180. So that process does not work. I get to stick with the 60, which now means all I got to do is just add these two numbers up and subtract it from 180. But you have to do that check first. So we add that up, get 141 to 180 minus that result. And I get approximately, for my last angle, 38.2132. And again, let's just check. C is my smallest angle, followed by B, followed by A being the largest. So therefore, that process was correct. Again, don't assume that that was a 90-degree angle. Not all people build a barn with 90 degrees. All right, so just one more question, and then I think you get pretty much everything you need to wrap up 9-1 and 9-2. So let's look at number 42. Number 42 says Bob wants to build an ice skating rink in his backyard, but his wife says he can only use the part beyond the wood chipped path running through the yard. How large would his rink be if it is triangular? So we're going to assume that this is the path, and then he said it was triangular. So maybe this is where his ice skating rink will be. With the sides of 20, 23, 32. And again, it doesn't matter where you put it. I just like that being the longest, but it really doesn't matter. All right. And it's asking how large would this be? So I'm looking for the area. So I first start off with the S, which is 1/2 of the side. So 23 plus 32 plus 20, which gives me 0.5 parentheses, 23 plus 32 plus 20, and I get 37.5. All right, to find the area, I will now do the square root of 37.5 times 37.5 minus 23 times 37.5 minus 32 times 37.5 minus 20. So now I'll type all that in. That's going to be 37.5 parentheses, 37.5 minus 23, close parentheses, open parentheses, 37.5 minus 32, close parentheses, open parentheses, 37.5 minus 20. I hit enter, and then my area becomes 228.77. This was feet squared. All right, there you go. So that should be everything you need to be just as successful on 9-1 and 9-2. But as always, if you need more help, more examples, more explanation, please reach out. See you in the next video.